sessions, I think, are very useful because the council is increasingly addressing environmental issues in all different kinds of contexts and ways. And, the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, which has now been recognized by both the council and the General Assembly, is an important sort of overarching framework under which this work occurs. But having these discussions in advance of the council creates a space for us to exchange, to have a better understanding of exactly what will be happening where, and there's just so much going on. I mean, the last session of the council, we had resolutions on NHRIs and climate change, a panel on youth participation in climate change, a resolution on the legacy of nuclear testing in the Marshall Islands, among other things. And all of these things are happening in the council, not in a vacuum, but in the context of the broader push to address environmental issues from a human rights perspective. So I do want to highlight as well, and was asked to, a little bit about what's happened since the last session of the council in the environmental space, and how that's been informed by both the work of the council and the General Assembly Resolution 76/300. So we had UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the 27th Conference of the Parties to the UNFCCC, and we had the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. And in both of those outcomes, we have, for the first time, the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment being clearly reflected. And I think that's a really important example of what the office and our partners within the UN system are trying to do in terms of advancing coherence across the different streams of work and areas of work of the United Nations under this overarching umbrella of the human right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So we're very pleased that at UNFCCC COP27, the outcome, the COP27 cover decision, includes the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. It's the first time that right has been included in a COP decision, and it's also the first time in a consensus, a pure, consensus decision that we have the right to a healthy environment appearing. And all of that is coming really from the longstanding work of the core group here at the council with HRC Resolution 4813, feeding into GA Resolution 76/300, and now into both the UNFCCC and CVD COP outcomes. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I know we don't have a lot of time, and we do want to focus on and hear from everybody about their plans for the upcoming council session. But I wanted to share that sort of as an example of how the work and efforts here in the council can make an impact in other parts of the work of the United Nations. And we had a very strong outcome in terms of CVD COP 15, as well from a human rights perspective. Now, it doesn't have everything that we would like to see in there, and certainly there are things that could be improved, but it is a huge improvement from the Aichi targets in terms of clearly reflecting human rights, the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, the rights of indigenous peoples, gender equality, so on and so forth. And so again, we need to view these processes as part of a broader ecosystem in which we're working on the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, and make those connections as well. I just flagged that the office has had a new High Commissioner take over since last we spoke in this context as well. High Commissioner Volker Turk is a very strong advocate on environmental issues. He was very actively engaged in our work related to both UNFCCC COP27, CBD COP15, and also the plastics negotiations process, which is ongoing. And he's taken a real strong interest and made it clear he'll continue, like his predecessor, to prioritize work on these issues. So turning now to the council, I think you're going to hear more and perhaps better informed updates from my colleague Victoria, particularly with respect to the work of the Special Rapporteur on Environment. And you're also going to hear from So-Young. I'll just flag that, again, we have a tremendous variety of important thematic issues on the agenda of the Council. We're also expecting a number of side events related to human rights and the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment to take place during this session of the Council. And I think this is a really useful space for sharing those plans, so we can all have a clear sense of how to plan our agendas in the coming weeks of what will be a very busy Council session. So just to flag thematically, I'll leave the update on the Special Rapporteur to the work of the Special Rapporteur to Victoria. There will also be the presentation of the report on climate change and housing from the Special Rapporteur on housing. There's a panel summary from the panel that took place in June of last year, or July maybe, on climate change and its impact on the rights of people in vulnerable situations. There's work on defenders, on food, a lot of things that will be coming up, and we'll hear more about from others. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. We have seen indeed that the new commissioner is a strong advocate of environmental issues. He has been vocal, I think, on all environmental negotiations that have been taking place since he joined the office. To complete the words of Ben, it's our pleasure to turn to our colleague So-Young Wang, who is currently in Nairobi but will be in Geneva with us at the end of this month. So-Young is a legal officer at the United Nations Environment Program, where she focuses on human rights issues. And So-Young, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Diana, and also thank you, Ben, for giving a good overview about what's been happened, which was a lot for the past few months. So mainly I was asked to why UNEP is engaged.
Lost So-Young?
Yes.
We lost you a few seconds, but you are back.
The internet can be a little bit choppy today here in the office, so just let me know if I go off again. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. So first of all, I was asked to elaborate on why it is important for UNEP to engage with the Human Rights Council. And there are many reasons, first of all, all the council members and everybody will agree that UN Human Rights Council is the major body and the main policy and decision-making body for human rights. So whoever wants to work on human rights, it makes sense that actually we work with the Human Rights Council. But as Ben also mentioned, that Human Rights Council has been giving a lot more attention on environmental issues, a variety of environmental issues, from climate change to child rights and climate change, and toxic waste and other biodiversity issues and so on. So it's more makes sense for UNEP to engage more with the Human Rights Council as you're addressing more issues. And another reason is for coordination. So it's a great so there are many UN intergovernmental bodies that work on human rights and the environment, but the coordination is a key in the breaking the silos between the Human Rights Council in Geneva and also bring that agenda to the UNGA and also UN Environment Assembly, which is coming up early next year. So those coordination issues is another reason why we really want to and are engaging with the Human Rights Council. And lastly, and most importantly, is the impact, the implementation. So for the implementation of the right to health environment and also having an impact at the global level, but not also at the local level, it is really important that we engage with the Human Rights Council and support your efforts in this regard. And so what UNEP is doing in terms of the engaging with the Human Rights Council is first is we work with member states for UN agencies, including OHCHR, and also CSOs, and have the information sessions like this. And other issues, what we are trying to do often in partnership with OHCHR and other entities such as UNDP, is to release guidances on the right of the environment or the issues relating to human rights in the environment. And one of the recent report that we produced is an information note on the right to healthy environment. It's co-published by OHCHR, UNDP, and UNEP, which is we aim to provide information on what the right is about and what was the history behind it and how far we have come on this in terms of advancing the right to healthy environment. So I'll share that link with everyone later on. But this is one of the examples that we want to raise awareness more about it. And also we want to advance this agenda for the implementation. So two upcoming reports coming from UNEP, which we are hoping to actually release it and have a launch event at the Human Rights Council in the first or the second week of the council, is a one-user handbook on how to engage with the human rights mechanisms for civil societies or MEA parties or anyone who is new to this area. Because I think this is a really well understood area at the Human Rights Council in Geneva, but it's not so much in elsewhere. So we wanted to we're publishing this handbook to increase understanding and the practical guidance on how to engage with others. And the next one is the stock taking on the recommendations from treaty bodies and UPR processes and special procedures in relation to environmental issues. So that we've done the extensive research on this, what kind of recommendations have been received so far from each committee, each human rights committee, and also the UPR processes in terms of all different environmental topics. So all these reports are coming up. So I hope you stay tuned. And other side events will inform you guys a little bit with more details once we know about the exact date and the time and the speakers and so on. But we hope to have a side event on this issue and also release these reports that we mentioned. So yeah, so thank you very much for always inviting UNEP for this and also for organizing this great information session. Thank you. Back to you, Diana.
Thank you very much, So Young, and we look forward to have you in person at the end of this month in Geneva. We'll now start our tour de table on the agenda of the upcoming session. I will ask who is in the room to raise their hand and who is online who would like to contribute to this discussion also to use the tool available to raise the hand. And we will start the tour de table by giving the floor to Victoria Aberg, who is one of the two colleagues who supports the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, who will be with us in Geneva in March. So Victoria, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you so much, Ben and Soo-Young, for giving a great overview so far. As Diana mentioned, I work with David Boyd, the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, and this upcoming March session is it's the moment when he will present his reports to the Human Rights Council, and he will be here in Geneva from the 6th of March until the 10th with previewed session. I mean, this can always move a little bit, but the presentation of his main thematic report on women, girls, and the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, at the moment foreseen for the 9th of March in the afternoon. So this is his main event. Also, as you might be aware, he conducted this year 2 country visits. He visited Portugal and he also visited Slovenia in September and October. This was a bit following up on the recognition of the right to health environment to assess in situ the situation of 2 countries who were 2 of the first countries in the world to have recognized this rights in their constitutions and to draw some best practices and examples. And both of these reports, they will also be discussed at the council. And then, as also some of you might be aware, David this year was also mandated to host an expert seminar on the prevention of pandemics. Some of you were involved, including UNEP and OHCHR. And the outcome of this, or the summary report of this expert seminar that took place in October, will also be presented during this session. David is also, the mandate is also aiming to host a side event, like Suyang mentioned, and as also some of you might know, it's been kind of hard to get rooms and to get specific dates that we'd hope for, but we're aiming for the 10th of March at this point in the afternoon, either at the Palais or potentially in the H building. But this will be on the topic of his report, i.e. on women, girls, and the right to healthy and sustainable environment. Just more broadly, David now, or the mandate looking ahead is soon or shortly in the upcoming week reaching out with a new call for input. His new thematic report will be on the procedural elements of the right to a healthy environment. This is a bit with a broader aim of also, just like others are doing, beginning to look more at the implementation of this right. So he's looked more at the substantive elements so far in his term, and now he'll do a report on the procedural elements, looking then to provide a report on implementation and even potentially producing, this is his ambitious goal at the moment, to produce 7 different guidances for target audience on the implementation of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. So this is what I would say at the moment. There will also be a resolution, not directly related to the mandate, but on the topic of environment or human rights, or now on the new right potentially. And this is a substantive resolution that will also be looking at. It's the core group that's working on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. And if we have colleagues from the core group, from the permanent missions online, I don't see Michael, who was supposed to be here, but other member states are. Please raise your hand. I just wanted to mention that 8 March is also Women's Day, as you all know, and we are planning an event here at the Environment House early in the morning, where we will also are also planning to co-organize with the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Environment, where he will also have the opportunity to present his report and some of the findings, and we are organizing that with the environmental community in Geneva and some of the colleagues who have joined us online for this session. Looking at the table to see if somebody would like to share information on events they are preparing at this session. I don't see any hands raised online, so I'm looking at the hands raised here. Francesca raised her hand. So Francesca, I will move you to the panel so that you can unmute yourself, open the camera, and speak to the room and to who is online with us.
Thank you very much and good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing this information sharing event. It's always very helpful to hear what the plans are. I'm Francesca with the Center for International Environmental Law. We are planning, and again, there as has been mentioned already, there are many uncertainties around the feasibility of side events, given the lack of available space, but we would like to organize a side event, perhaps on the 21st of March, to take stock from a human rights perspective of the synthesis report that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change will have adopted just a few days before. The IPCC will be in session between the 13th to the 17th of March in Interlaken and will adopt their synthesis report, summarizing their special reports and reports on mitigation, climate science, and adaptation. And of course, there are many elements that are relevant to human rights. We are still assessing whether this event will be feasible, but it's still worth announcing this plan. And we are organizing it together with Earth Justice, who's partnering with us.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Yves, you raised your hand. Just on the IPCC report, I wanted to mention that the official launch of the report is going to be online. It's going to be a press conference, and it's going to happen on the Monday, I think it's a Monday, the 20th of March. The meeting was supposed to be in Geneva, but it's now in Interlaken. So we might do a multi-stakeholder event also to launch and discuss the findings of the report in Geneva, but this is still being discussed with the IPCC Secretariat. Yves, you asked the floor, so the floor is yours. Yves Lador, I'll let you introduce yourself also.
Thank you very much, Yves Lador from Earth Justice. And first, let me thank the Gen for this event, which is very, very useful to give us some visibility of what's going to happen on environmental issues at the Council. And just to first follow up on what has just been said about the IPCC, as we are also co-organizing this with Ciel. It will be to focus more on the human rights aspect and what could be discussed. So if ever you have also your side, and this is precisely what is very important to have this kind of information sharing session, is that if ever Jen is also organizing something, I suppose that it's going to be on a wider scope of review of the report. So it'll be interesting to see how we can coordinate this. And of course, we are submitted to the availability of the scientists who will come. Some of them will fly back from Zurich and not from Geneva, so it won't be able to have them back here in Geneva. So we'll see how it is possible, because of course we don't want to just repeat what everybody is saying. We want to be able to provide some additional specific information that are particularly of concern for the approach on human rights. Having said that, first of all, on the different announcements also which have been made, if I understand, and I really want to thank Victoria about this information concerning a possible resolution. I don't know if other states who are here around the room or listening can also confirm that, because there were some discussions about that. So we really look forward. That would be a very, very important element. And perhaps, and I don't know, Victoria, if you have more information about that, but the idea would be perhaps to propose like a seminar or some kind of a follow-up of that sort, so that everybody has a bit of an idea. And I hope it's still going forward. And we had also heard, and I don't know if anybody here around can help in clarifying this, that there might be also a high-level segment on such an issue. So I don't know if there's any possibility. We've also heard about some dates, so I don't know if this is still on or not. But of course, it will be very, very important, because that's going to be the first, that would be within the very first week and the very first days. So it's important to make sure that we all mobilize on this if we do have ministers taking the floor on such an issue. And I want to thank also Jen for, and I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you also, Diana, a confirmation, because you're talking about this event on the 8th of March, if I'm correct, on the Women's Day, which would mean then that we're going to have an important week on women, girls, and the environment, because then we would have one event here in the Environment House and another event at the Palais des Nations with the Human Rights Council. And I think that's great news, because it's really very important to give as much publicity as possible to the report of the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment on the issue of women, girls, and the environment. So really looking forward to that. On our side, we are also, this is also going to be at this session, the anniversary of the Human Rights Council Declaration on Human Rights Defenders. The special rapporteur on human rights defenders is preparing a report with a number of successes and milestones that have been achieved since the declaration. And of course, one of the issue that has emerged over the last years is the question and the need, unfortunately, the increased need of protection for environmental defenders. So we hope to bring this discussion also within the framework of the global anniversary. And so for this, we're expecting to prepare what could be first called a related event. That's not going to happen in the Palais des Nations, but with a review of regional trends with people coming from the ground. That's going to be an online meeting, and then a side event, which we also hopefully hope to have on the 16th. But again, this is will depend on how we and when we can get the rooms, which is a battle for everybody, for states, for the office, and for us also as NGOs. So if that is possible, then we would have an event on the 13th, and that would be the related events on regional trends, and the 16th in the Palais des Nations with the special rapporteur. If this is possible, again, linked to the availabilities. And the objective is to go further with what had been launched 2 years ago in 2020, which is the Geneva Roadmap for the 11. On the implementation, we're trying to develop some kind of follow-up mechanisms to implement the Human Rights Council Resolution 4011 on environmental defenders. We need to develop more strength and more methodologies for their protection. And so we hope that this will be a new step of the Geneva Roadmap that had been developed 2 years ago. And finally, this is still in preparation, and that will be also a related event and not a side event. What I mean by related, it's going to be linked to the council, but as we're allowed only one event as NGOs, we can't do, so the others will have to do them outside of the Palais. But if I'm correct, and Victoria, please correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, but the special rapporteur is preparing a briefing note on the impact of trade investments. I mean, to be more precise, it's on the state investors settlement mechanism, right? So that I don't make any mistake. And we think it's a very important issue. A number of other organizations are working on this here in Geneva. So it would be interesting to have such a discussion with the special rapporteur and the other concerned bodies who are in Geneva on such a report, because they have an impact on these settlements mechanisms, have a very strong impact on environmental policy making, and of course on the implementation of the right to a healthy and sustainable environment. So we look forward. We don't have a date yet because this is still under preparation. And I think that's it on my side.
Thank you, Yves, for the update. Don't hesitate to raise your hands. We have Joseph Burke from the Universal Rights Group who has raised his hand online. So we will give him the floor. And in case we have many people online, and in case, Yves, can you switch off? And in case we member states from the core group didn't put their country name close to their name, I know most of the colleagues there, but I don't see their names online. Don't hesitate to raise your hand. With that, Joseph, over to you, and don't hesitate to introduce yourself when you take the floor.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for holding this event today. My name is Joseph Burke, and I'm a researcher at the Universal Rights Group. I'm currently based in Nairobi, but I will be in Geneva for the council. And we are planning on holding a side event on environmental democracy in Africa and the push for a regional treaty here on the continent, similar to Escazú and Aarhus. And while it's still in the very early stages of planning, we are looking at different states that could potentially be co-sponsoring it. And we believe that it will be the second week of the council. And we still have a lot to do, but we're looking at basically gaining support for this push for a treaty here in Africa and looking at lessons learned from other processes. So once we have more information and once we have more planned on it, I'll be able to send more information to everybody, but just wanted to give a quick update on that to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Last time we heard such a session, it was very close to the human rights, the beginning of the human rights session of the Council, and we thought it was too late, but we can see here that colleagues are still struggling in getting their time frames and room available for their events. So the information will be shared later. Looking at the room, I still don't see hands up. I don't see hands up. If you don't find the little tool online, don't hesitate to leave a message in the chat, and I move you to the panel. But I'm turning to Victoria as Yves directly asked you questions, so I'll let you reply to Yves.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the questions, Yves. No, just on the briefing note, I can let you know that it's called, like, the title will be something like this: Investor-State Dispute Settlement, Human Rights and the Environment. And the hope, there is a draft already like existing on this, and we hope that it should become public either now in February or March. So yeah, he'd be very happy to collaborate on this with anyone else interested. For the resolution, I mean, yeah, I think it'd be for the core group to maybe speak about that. I just know that it looks very likely that it's in the making and that there's a draft and it's of substantive character. So I leave it to them on a different occasion, if they're not online, to speak more about their intentions.
I'm also turning to Ben. Any comment you would like to make on the high-level events that might be planned?
Yeah.
Or Victoria, you have?
I think I'll probably have a similar sort of non-answer. I am aware of a couple of high-level events that are being planned potentially for the 27th of February, but they are not fully confirmed, and OHCHR is not the organizer. We are a potential high-level participant should those move forward, but I won't say anything about that. I would leave it to the organizing states to share details when they've fully confirmed their plans. But I do expect that we will have a couple of high-level events with some of the ministers coming in for the high-level segment related to human rights and the environment.
Indeed, and I think we can say that the core group is behind that high-level event, which is on the first day of the council. And this is why we were looking for Michael, who was supposed to be here, but is not here. Looking at the room again and looking at who is online, anybody who would like to take the floor? Any events you are engaging in or planning to have? No. Looking online, I don't see. So I remind you that we have, as I mentioned at the beginning of my introduction, but some of you joined later, that we have on our website a form, and I think we can again share the link in the chat, where you can submit events so that we can publicize them. And one of the ideas of having this session, of having these discussions, is not only to create synergies among the actors who are planning events, but it's also to avoid that we all plan our events on the same day at the same time, so that we can all attend the events other colleagues are organizing, and also to create synergies in case some of those events focus on the same topics. But generally, as we work all together, we try to avoid that. But it's also important to mention that. We have seen in the past that we had exhibitions lunches during a side event that was on the same topic, and this is why the share of information is also very, very important. And so maybe the special rapporteur, he's with us the second week of the council, so he's here from the 6th to the 10th.
Yeah, so the full week, so to say.
So the full week, and he's engaged in many also bilaterals and other events.
Yes.
So of
Yeah.
course, this is also something important in case you would like to be on that agenda.
Yes.
Victoria and her colleague are the right people to contact. I don't see any other hand raised. Anybody else here who would like to add something? Ben and Soyoung, do you want to add something more to the discussion? Of course, for who is with us in Geneva, we have coffee, tea, and we will continue the discussion once we close the event. But first, I want to give a chance to Ben, and let Ben please take the floor, and then Soyoung, you can take the floor.
Thank you very much, and thanks for everybody joining for a really interesting and useful discussion. I wanted to maybe flag something that's happening before the council, which is the meeting of the advisory committee of the Human Rights Council, where they will be talking about a draft study related to geoengineering. So that's something as well to keep your eyes out for. And that meeting of the advisory committee is from the 20th to the 24th of February. And also just wanted to thank you all again, and invite you to be in touch should there be anything we can help or support with.
Indeed, Ben and Victoria, you are two among the key people who are to lead when we talk with environmental issues related to the Human Rights Council in Geneva and other human rights processes. Soyoung, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Diana. I don't have much to add. I just want to say thank you for organizing this meeting. We find it really, really useful. And I just forgot to mention one thing about the UN Environment Assembly, which will be taking place next year around this time. So the decision is to focus on the solution-based approach to triple environmental crisis. But then also when you read actually the contents of it, it also talks about advancing the right to a clean and healthy and sustainable environment. So I think the Council resolution and the GA resolution and how that's also affecting the UN Environment Assembly decisions and also upcoming theme of the UNEA is, I think that's very encouraging. And we'll keep you posted about what how the preparation for UNEA is taking place. Thank you. Back to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Soyoung. And I would like also to mention that I see our colleagues from another important human rights and environment body in Geneva, the Aarhus Convention, who are sharing the links of the events they have planned, the upcoming events. So we will also, he's shared it only personally with me. So we will also share this one with everybody. And so for who is with us online, just to mention also that I'm doing that, all the information that was shared here and the links that were mentioned are available on the webpage of this event, and we can share that again. We have a weekly newsletter updating the international community in Geneva and abroad of what's happening on the environmental agenda in Geneva. We try to be as exhaustive as possible, but there's a lot happening, so it's not always an easy task. So don't hesitate to come back with us when you're planning things, and we look forward to see you at other events we are organizing. We will be involved in some of the side events to the Human Rights Council, supporting some of the colleagues that you heard today. But we are also engaged in many other topics, and if you're interested, tomorrow we are hosting a discussion here on the environmental footprint of the UN system, presenting the last findings of a report that was issued last December. So you are welcome to join us. And I know that Ben's team and others have been also contributing to this report. But there are many other topics we are addressing, and so we look forward those of you who focus on topics that are larger than human rights to see you at those events also. Thank you very much for your participation. And for those who are here in Geneva with us, let's have a coffee and discuss bilaterally, continue the discussion bilaterally. Thank you very much. Thank you for Ben and to Victoria here in the room and to Soyoung online. And for you who join us here at the Environment House, and for those who join us online, and for those who will later see the video of this event, and for the team who who are always very dedicated in preparing all these events. Thank you.
Sorry.